Hi, welcome to What Matters Most. My name is Eric Anzalone. Today, we're at Media Music Studio in Media, Pennsylvania. And this place, it has the perfect blend of atmosphere for creativity, and it's welcoming. And you know what? It even has a bar. Today, our guest is Karin Davidson, who's a renowned international trainer of Meridian Tapping Techniques and Matrix Reimprinting, and co-author of the books EFT Level 1 and Level 2 Comprehensive Training Resources. So, let's go inside, find Karin, make some music, or tapping. Karin has worked around the world and taught thousands of people to help themselves and to then help others to free themselves from the past and become brighter, happier people with warm futures. Welcome, Karin.
Hi, Eric. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for being here. You know, I gotta say, you know, back in college, I was a great tapper of kegs. Well, of kegs, I was gonna say, but I could do a mean time step. So I'm sure there are a lot of people who are thinking, tapping? Can you explain to us what tapping is?
It's actually a way that uses your energy system to lower negative emotions. So if you're angry, if you're upset, if you have stage fright, if you're worried about something, if you have stress, if you're mad at your husband or wife, or any kind of like this kind of feeling. And what happens when you get like this? You can't think, right?
Right.
So what we do is we use the meridian system. What that is you have veins in your body that takes the blood around, right? Well, the meridians is the energy lines, the pathways in your body. So when you react to something and you get a negative emotion, that's like a blockage of those meridians, and you can't think. I mean, can you think when you're stressed?
Yes, but probably about the wrong things.
Right,
That's
exactly.
why I'm stressed.
So what happens is you use these meridian systems by pressing or tapping on acupressure points. You know what acupuncture is, right?
Yeah.
So if you, by tapping or pressing or rubbing, just stimulating the points, what it does is it pushes through those negative emotions and it lowers the negative emotion. I mean, that's simple. You think about a bad thing.
Show me what it looks so people can picture this.
So there's 10 points that we normally use, but I usually only teach people 3 of them at first, and you just.
I'm sorry. That one always makes when I see because I'm thinking this. You know what I mean?
There's like 4 meridians going through the top of your head, so that's why I use all my fingers and tap like this. What we do is we normally, when we're doing tapping, we go on the starting of each meridian. So like one of them starts here, one of them starts here, but not necessarily. So if if there's a point here, and you can tap along the meridian lower because it's a line. We're only tapping on the beginning line. You know EEGs, electroencephalograms?
Yes.
Where they put those things on your head? They are actually putting them on acupressure points so that they're reading the energy field, the lines for the EEGs. So this is not as weird as you think it is. I mean, we really do have energy systems and things like that. So, and you've heard of chi, heard of that kind of thing? That's energy system. True. So what we're doing is we're tapping on this to push the energy through, and it lowers the negative emotions. There's a body of meridian tapping techniques like EFT, emotional freedom technique, TFT, thought field therapy, TAT, tapping acupressure technique. There's a whole bunch of them. It depends on the style that you want to use.
How does somebody who was working as a TV producer, and you should see her, I can see her mind working as a producer during this whole shoot.
It's hard not to.
Yeah. How does someone go from that to becoming a practitioner, not just tapping, but becoming a teacher of that?
People tell me their life story. I mean, I'm looking at a sweater at a mall or something, and this woman comes up next to me and she holds up the sweater and she says, I just found out my daughter has 3 months to live. She has cancer. What am I supposed to do with that? Yeah. What am I supposed to do with that? So I learned Reiki. I mean, like television producer, what does this have to do with this stuff? Yeah. So I learned Reiki and colors and crystals, and I mean, I tried to learn all this stuff to try to help people, and nothing stuck. They all felt better. They would walk out, they would feel better. But it didn't stick. It didn't get rid of whatever was causing it. And then I found tapping. And tapping changed things. I'm
taking your word for it. I believe I've done a little research on this.
You don't believe this.
Well, I'm always a skeptic, so I like to get a little firsthand information. So I think we do have some people here today that have had some success with tapping. So let's go out there and see if we can talk to some people. Okay? Hi, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good. What's your name?
Jerry Deegan.
Jerry Deegan. And what do you got there?
I'm hiding something. I think this is for you.
Oh, awesome. Look at this.
perfect.
How do I look, yeah? Young man, there's a place. Actually, there is no fireman in the Village People. But anyway, what's the significance of this helmet?
It's quite interesting. 2007, I was forced out of the workplace as a firefighter due to post-traumatic stress disorder. And for about a 5-year period, that was buried. Couldn't find it. Literally hid it somewhere in the house, couldn't find it. Basically, PTSD, shamed, a whole bunch of issues. And of course, in 2011 and in 2012, discovered emotional freedom technique, and several practitioners worked on me and did a phenomenal job. There were actually 3 events that sort of were the, if you want to look at it, the crowning touch that kind of pushed me over the edge. I can smile about it now, I couldn't smile about it then. And most of them involved children, which is always obviously the worst.
Mm-hmm. And because you had such success with it, now you're a practitioner yourself, you're teaching others?
That's correct. I've worked on a little over 100 people to this point, firefighters, nurses, police officers, and military people. And amazing to see it from the other side of the chair and watch the transformation. How quickly it happens, how easily it happens. It's painless. To someone that doesn't understand tapping, it's almost magical. And at first, they think, well, what kind of drugs is this guy on? I need to try some, right? Yeah. It seems to be working for him, but wonder why it's working for him. What is it all about? Right. What this does more than anything is when you see morbid events, when you experience them, smell them, hear them, you have the ability to take that down a number of notches to the point where you no longer, it no longer becomes all of the things that a trauma is. You remember it, but you're not triggered. It's not an emotional event.
My experience with tapping was pretty huge. The biggest thing I think that happened was I was diagnosed with clinical depression when I was 19. And I spent several years on lots of different medications and told that I would never ever be off of them. I interned for Karin Davidson in a different business entirely as a graphic designer. Oh. And I had sort of a little breakdown in her office and was trying to sit at my desk and not cry and not let anybody in the office see me cry. And she was like, "What, are you crying? What are you doing? Come here." And she was like, "I'm gonna do this thing on you and it's weird, and just deal with it and I'll explain it afterward."
I love she prefaced it with, "This is weird."
And I was like, okay, and it worked. Yeah. And it was crazy. And then I spent a lot of time working on it, and now I'm off medication. I haven't had any relapses in 5 or 6 years. I was an artist before I was diagnosed with depression, and then because of all the meds, I wasn't able to see pictures in my mind anymore. And through some tapping specifically on that and the side effects of the meds, I see pictures now again. I'm now an artist. I've finished 2 degrees since not being depressed when I couldn't even go to school when I was.
I'm an EFT practitioner, and I found Karin as I was looking for a way to clear stuff that I had, that I had for years. I had some issues in my, some memories that kept popping up. And no matter what I did, I was a performer. And no matter what I did, my conscious brain would say, okay, so I know the problems in the past and it's done with, and I know it's not with me now, but it would still be there. And no matter what I did in my conscious mind, I couldn't change it. I performed very successfully, but I had a problem with going further, being even more successful. And so over the years, I kind of left show business, and then I had a family, I had kids, and then I wanted to come back into showbiz. And I found that when I went to audition, I would come up with the same terror. It was terror. And I didn't realize at the time that I was actually having post-traumatic stress. My issue was incest. Wow. And sexual abuse from when I was a kid. And I thought I had it handled, but I really didn't. So that's when I started, working on that issue. EFT has helped me realize that and get through the trauma. Once you get through the trauma with the EFT, with the tapping, and you work on the multi-levels like an onion skin, you're peeling the layers off the onion. In my experience, I was trying to hide. So when I was performing, I wasn't really being as really awesome as I could have been, because there was this part of me that was, contracting in and hiding. Because I didn't want people to really know the truth, which was my belief system, which was I'm not good enough, or you really can't know that about me because it's hidden and it's dirty and it's all these things. So there we go. But EFT helps, my God, it's fantastic. So now I'm a practitioner and I help others with that issue. So
Good for you.
I've actually had so many amazing breakthroughs with tapping, but I think we wanted to focus on a couple that I had when I did the EFT practitioner training.
Okay.
And I've had chronic pain my entire life, and also a traumatic brain injury when I was around 40. I was really being bothered by the lights in the room where we had our training. The reason that they were hurting me is because when I was in the ambulance, it had that same kind of light.
Ambulance after you had this
As this accident, yeah.
Okay.
And I had been, like, for 13 years unable to be in fluorescent lights for more than a little tiny bit of time. I would have seizures. And I don't know, maybe about 6 months ago, I started, like, every time I was hearing people's problems, I would say, you know, I think I could help them with tapping. So I decided to take the EFT practitioner training with Karin.
Do people notice the change in you?
Oh my God. Like,
I mean, obviously you can drive at night now, you know, that kind of stuff. But
So incredible changes. My friends don't even recognize me.
All through my teenage years, early 20s, I had suffered from depression on and off. Never really wanted to take the medication route. I had found Reiki, which is kind of like pot to me. It's like the gateway into this energy world, gateway into a new type of drug.
Wait, did you just say pot?
I did say pot. It's what it is. It's the gateway drug, right? So
It is.
EFT was my next step. It was my next drug. I didn't know what it was. I just saw the sign, hey, EFT group, $10, and I walked in. And I walked out a whole new person. And so I kept going back. It was a group session, $10, I could afford that. And I was doing my own work without even realizing it. So I tapped for the next 4 years. But I always thought I had to, like, sit down, get ready, do all of these points and know what I was gonna tap on. And then after reading Karin's level 1 and level 2 books, I realized I could incorporate this in a whole new way. And at that time I had just become a mom. And I'm a mom to a beautiful, funny, just amazing son, but he's not a sleeper. And so I started tapping on him for saying, I couldn't communicate with him, he couldn't communicate with me. But as I would hold him, I would just gently rub on his points and say, even though I don't know why you can't sleep, I know you're having trouble sleeping, and it's okay. And he would fall asleep in my arms. And it was amazing for something that had brought so much frustration to me to, like, have a way to just be able to, in a few minutes, calm both him and me. And so I think every parent should know tapping, because I use it now not just for sleep. Like this morning, he, like, bumped his head, he started crying, and he now knows. I go, do you want to tap? And he goes, tap, tap, tap. And so we just tap on the spots to let it release. So their kids are going to have all these little traumas. If I can help him learn how to take care of the little traumas, when he has a big trauma, he's already prepared. If everyone learned to tap and then everyone showed someone else how to tap, like, we'd raise an amazing group of young children.
Yeah. Well put. Well, thank you so much, Steph.
Thank you.
All right.
Beautiful stories.
I mean, really moving stories.
That's
seriously.
what it is.
And a whole range of things.
That shows you the
Abuse.
gamut. I
Really,
mean, it
it's
shows you the gamut, that what it can help. I mean,
Right.
it makes you feel better, but it also does all those
post-traumatic
things.
stress. I mean, it's phenomenal. I tell you what, can we try a little something on me?
Oh, please.
Oh, really?
It makes it much easier because then you'll feel it yourself.
Yeah.
All right, so let's just, do you have any bad feelings going on inside you? Any kind of stress, anxiety, fear?
Yeah, so I have, some people call it a fear of commitment. I'm gonna call it a fear of failure, because I'm now in a situation now where my,
Go ahead.
yes, my girlfriend is moving from Australia, and
No commitment there at all.
oh yeah, no, and so again, I know it's all good and fine, but in, you know, somewhere deep down inside, I'm going,
There you go.
here we go. Oh my God, it's gonna.
So you see that? Okay, this he's starting to tap into that anxiety. Is that what would you call that? Whatever
Yeah,
that is.
it's anxiety. Yeah, it's.
And where are you feeling it?
It's kind of radiating from here, but it's in my
in your chest.
heart, because my heart races.
All right, and 0 to 10, 0 is no anxiety, 10 is you're going to run screaming out of the room. What is it?
I would say 6.5 to 7, maybe in there.
Okay, now you're gonna look at me, and you're just
Okay.
gonna. You're gonna mimic me. You're gonna say what I say, and you're gonna do what I do. Okay? Simon says. So take your hand and do this for me. You're gonna take all 4 fingers and tap on the side of your hand.
Of course, I'm trying to figure out right or left.
Doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't matter? No.
Which is a question everybody asks. Say, I have this anxiety
I have this anxiety
in my chest
in my chest
and in my stomach.
and in my stomach.
I have this anxiety
I have this anxiety
because she's coming from Australia.
because she's coming from Australia.
I have this anxiety.
I have this
Now I want you
anxiety.
to cup your hand, and where you would tie your tie, I want you to tap there with all 4 fingers. Say, I have this anxiety.
I have this anxiety.
This 7 anxiety
This 7 anxiety
because of this commitment,
because of this commitment.
because she's coming from Australia.
Because she's coming from Australia.
Top of your head. I have this anxiety
I have this anxiety
because she's coming from Australia.
because she's coming from Australia.
This anxiety in my chest.
This anxiety in my chest.
This anxiety in my stomach.
This anxiety in my
And
stomach.
back to here. This anxiety
This anxiety
that I have
that I have
because she's coming from Australia.
because she's coming from Australia.
And just take a breath. 0 to 10. How's the anxiety?
I can't stop tapping.
He's surprised. And do you notice his face? Look
Yeah.
at the surprise on his face.
Wow.
Okay, so see how simple? That's what happens. He's so surprised that it worked. I mean, he's almost in shock that it worked. And that was 3 points. We
You
used
know what
10.
I feel like? I feel like, and I gotta describe this. It's like you have adrenaline running through your body, and then when it stops, you get that feeling of, like almost like that's what I'm feeling right now. Like, oh, okay.
And those are 3 points, and we only did 1 round. It's called a round.
Right. There's 10 points.
There's 10 points. So
Right.
you can imagine if you had that much change. What are you 0 to 10 now for the anxiety?
3.
All right,
maybe
so
4.
one round with only 3 points, and you went from a 7 to a 3 or a 4.
Yeah.
So imagine if we did 10 points and did more of it and more than 1 round. So 1 round, 3 points, that's how much change you had. And that's why I try to get people to just try it.
How do you then teach a child, like Stephanie was saying,
It's
she does it
great.
on her child, but you can actually teach children, not just do it on
Could you
children.
imagine if you can get rid of all your baggage by the age of 6 instead of 60? I mean, what if we gave this as a tool to children
Yeah.
to be able to deal? Because kids, they don't get listened to. First of all, they get told at. Who can they tell that they're upset with their teacher? Where can they vent? They can't vent to your parent because you're going to get in trouble. And we have little tools.
Okay.
See these?
Yeah.
It has points. These are where the points are. So they can tell the bear the secret, like, Mommy's mad at me. And I'm sorry, Mommy's mad and teacher was really mean to you today. And I'm really sorry that teacher was so mean, and because I didn't know the right answer, and so I'm really upset with my teacher. I'm not, it's the bear. The bear's upset with my teacher because I'm a good little boy or I'm a good little girl. So it's the bear that's upset with his teacher.
But then the child has to do that on
Not
themselves.
necessarily.
But I thought it had to be on a meridian point. You're actually hitting a point. So there is something physical that's actually happening in the body. But you're not, when you're tapping it on the bear, you're not doing that.
It has to do with surrogate tapping. You said Reiki.
Right.
It's we're all one, we're all energy and things like that. You are actually, when you're tapping on the bear, you're tapping with yourself, your own energy field. You are dissociating yourself from the bad thing. So like if you're afraid of spiders, it doesn't matter if the spider's all the way across the room, you're doing this. You're afraid of spiders.
Yeah.
Well, if we can dissociate you from that, if we can take that feeling and you can tap, and sometimes tapping can work in 3 rounds. I mean, you can get rid of a phobia that fast.
But aren't you telling yourself, because I've noticed when you're tapping, you're actually reinforcing the negative, right?
Okay, so that's the other weird thing. Yes, you say the negative when you tap, because that's what you're trying to dissociate, is that feeling of negative. So we do tap when you say the negative. Now, you hear all the time, oh, don't say the negative. That's a bad thing to do. Positive affirmation. But the truth is you're shining a light in the corner, and you're going, no, I feel anxious because she's coming here.
Is there actually a physical phenomenon that is happening in the body, or is this all brain?
No. The physical part of it is you're stimulating the points and pushing through the energy through the meridians, and it's dissociating it. And it has to do with the amygdala and hippocampus, because once you start doing this tapping, what they found is the amygdala, which is trying to keep you safe, is that's its job.
Okay.
If you tap and you're not feeling anxious anymore, the hippocampus goes, oh, I see. I don't have to be anxious around this.
Oh, is he like a dude?
Yeah, he's a dude, man.
Dude, chill out, man.
That's what's happening.
Totally.
That's exactly what's
Righteous.
happening.
Yeah. Now, in one of your videos that I saw, you talk about the apex effect.
What happens is it happens so fast, like the surprise on your face.
Yeah, right.
It's so quick that people go, it can't be tapping, and that's the apex effect. It's because when you have something that's been bothering you for so long, and you tap and it disappears, they're like, I don't think it's tapping. So I was at a networking event, and there was a woman at a table, and they go around and say, what do you do? And I say, well, I do this, I help people feel better about things. When I do this thing called acupressure, and it's EFT and tapping, and I can make you feel better. They said, so can you show us? I'm like, yeah. I said, anybody here upset about something? And this one woman, she's very coiffed. She has this beautiful suit on, and she's very quiet. Out of her mouth comes this string of curse words about her husband, who left her 15 years ago. And and everybody's doing this because you don't expect it to come out of her. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, is it all right if I tap on you and do this? And she said, yes. And with her, I did it on her. And since there's points on the fingers, it's not weird tapping here on somebody you don't know. So what I did is I just said, I hate my husband, he drove me crazy, he left me 15 years ago, and blah, 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 blah. And we went through the whole thing, and I'm tapping on her fingers and tapping, and I put a hand on, I was like, okay, so obviously that was a 10 because of the cursing. I said, how do you feel about your husband? She goes like, what do you mean? I'm like, that he left you. That was 15 years ago, I don't care. And then she goes, and I'm like, but what about the house, the car, and the kids? Oh, yeah, wasn't that great? He left me the house, and he left me the car, and he left me with the kids. It was really easy. I don't know what you do. This weird thing doesn't work. And she gets up to go get a glass of wine, and I'm just blinking, and everybody around the table is going, can I have your card? Because and that's the apex effect. 15 years she's been hating her husband for doing this. It can't possibly. Here, now it's all better.
Yeah. That just worked.
I had another guy, he came in, and he had anger issues, slamming things and throwing things and all that kind of stuff. And he called me for the third appointment. He says, this stuff's not working. I'm not going to show up for my appointment. I said, I think you need to talk to your roommates. He said, why? I said, they've all called me to get appointments for themselves because he's not slamming things anymore, and he didn't even know it.
Wow.
So it's the apex effect where it's just, so it feels like you, so you don't think that it possibly could be banging on your face, to get rid of this.
Now, in watching some of your videos, I noticed there's lots of different techniques. One of them is kind of interesting, tap and complain.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Everybody always tells you don't complain. It's a bad thing to do, right? But with tapping, you're actually helping yourself. So you just sit there and you tap on all the points and just whine. And what it's doing is it's taking all those aspects about the way you feel about it and lowering them all. And it's so much fun because you're giving people permission for the first time ever to just whine. And they love it. So a lot of times people say, well, what do I say? What are the words to use while I'm tapping? Just, complain, whine, bitch.
Right, so we go from bitching to a man who probably has one of the most difficult and worst jobs in the world that you had an experience.
Yeah, I get real emotional when I talk about this because, the reason I'm doing this is to help people. And could you imagine this guy's job? He takes the results of cancer tests. His job is to bring people in and tell them whether or not they have cancer. That's his job. That is the worst job in the world. Yeah. So he came to a course, and he's like, but I'm a doctor. I can't touch my, I can't tap on them. And so I showed him. I said, can you hold their hand? He said, yes. And I said, there's a point right here. You can put your thumb here. And I better use the other hand so you can see better. So I can. This is the karate chop point, right? So I'm pushing on the karate chop point, and I'm pushing on what's called the gamut point. And I can talk to you like this, right? So now what he does is when he tells a patient that they have cancer, he picks up their hand first and starts talking to them about, what's going on. And he says and I am going to get emotional. The difference he has made in people's lives. Because when you're told you have cancer, it's not just the cancer, it's the diagnosis. Both of those are traumas. So if he could heal a trauma just by picking up his hand.
And they wouldn't even know.
They don't even know. And nurses, you can't run around and tap on people and as a nurse, but they can do this because they're taking your, taking your pressure.
Right.
And so they can hold your hand like this. And it's changed in the hospice, when people can do this very easily, and touch. Touch is such a wonderful thing in the first place. Now I'm pushing, because it isn't, I know it's called tapping,
right,
but you can
you're
press.
Stealth tapping.
I am stealth tapping.
It's like you're using the force. It's like I'm going like this. These are not the droids you're looking for.
Right.
For all you Star Wars geeks. No, that is wonderful.
So it's a very neat thing.
Bless you. That is.
Well, see, that's why I do this. You know, you saw how it changes people's lives. I mean, I was a television producer. I mean, I produce news. It bleeds, it leads. You know, that's not, I'm sorry, but I mean, nothing against news producers, but it's just a rough, you know, thing to be in. And now instead, I'm teaching people how to, you know, help their children feel better. PTSD, the thing that he's going to change the world. But, you know, veterans, and Jerry is, he's going to change the world. And it's just, I get to be a part of it. Yeah, I get to help people. And it's just, if I can get them to tap and look stupid for a little bit, then I will be able to help them.
Perfect segue into my last question. What matters most to you? What's the lasting imprint you want to leave on this planet?
You know, people say they can't help the world. You know, you say, well, you're one person. You know, you can, because I just taught you tapping. Right? And I'm teaching them tapping. And then they can teach somebody else. And they can teach their friends, and they can teach their family. So it's not just me. Because if we all do it, we can change the world.
Karin Davidson, a woman who has dedicated her life to sharing the treasure chest of tapping with the world. She's truly a living example that tapping doesn't change the past. It changes your attitude and attachment to the past. And if you can do that, imagine what it can do for your future. I mean, this simple technique is life-altering, reminding us once again, the simple things in life are what matter most. Namaste. Thank you.
And right under your arm, ladies, where the arm strap is, this emotion. This emotion. This emotion. Armpit, this emotion. This emotion. Now I'll show you another point as well. On the top of your wrist, you know, this emotion. This emotion. This emotion. And on the top of your head, this emotion. This emotion. Now take a breath.